Mitumba, or secondhand clothing, is very popular in Kenya, and it took center stage at last week's Nairobi Fashion Week. The theme of the event, Decarbonize, was intended to put more focus on slow fashion and conscious production. Kenya's best designers showcased pieces they had upcycled from used materials.
Chic cuts and accessories made from what could have been waste. The catwalk at Nairobi Fashion Week put a spotlight on upcycled clothes, part of a slow fashion movement that's better for the environment.
We are on our 8th edition, celebrating the theme Decarbonize. It comes at a critical time when the global world, or the global system, is livid on matters climate change.
The fashion industry produces 10% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, like carbon dioxide. And it creates an immense amount of textile waste.
Fashion is one of the biggest polluter, if not the biggest polluter of the planet.
Kenya is Africa's biggest importer of second-hand clothes that are unwanted and passed on mostly from the US, China and Europe. They land here in thrift markets such as Gikomba, just a few kilometers away from this glamorous show.
So I bought a lot of these fabrics that you saw in the collection, all from the second-hand market, local markets, the Gikomba. So I used those ones and created pieces that can still be, they look like fresh.
But much of the second-hand imports never make it to ramp walks or even into wardrobes.
So we're not against this business because we do realize that there's a big population of traders who actually depend on this for their livelihood. And that's okay. I think what we are calling really and we are pushing really is for the global north to stop dumping.
The founders hope Nairobi Fashion Week will spark more global discussion on the fashion industry and the role that Africa has played and continues to play in putting sustainability at the heart of it.
And from Nairobi, I'm now joined by one of Kenya's leading designers, John Kaveke, who recently showcased his latest collection at Nairobi Fashion Week. John, we're glad you could join us, not least to congratulate you in person on the show and your collection. As we just saw, this year, Nairobi Fashion Week not only featured the latest Kenyan designers, but also aimed to rethink the entire industry, to decarbonize and become more sustainable. Why is that so important?
First, thank you very much for the congratulations. I appreciate that. One thing I know is that this is an ongoing process globally, and I think Kenya is not willing to be behind in this process because we still consider fashion as something very important in our DNA as well. And I think what we experienced in Nairobi Fashion Week in terms of trying to address this issue, and us being as creatives, it's been a process, especially for me myself, to really understand and be part of a process that is an ongoing on a global conversation.
The fashion industry certainly plays its part in contaminating the environment. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yes, it is said that definitely fashion has its own contribution in the carbon, and I guess it's the processes that fabrics are produced, how they're produced. So the whole manufacturing is part of it, and also the idea of how people have high fashion is definitely something that people have a big appetite for in terms of quickly changing clothes from, you wear it for one season and out. So fashion has been one of the major contributors into this. And it's important that we address it not only as an issue, but also as something that even as us creatives, that we can also be part of the process of trying to reduce it.
John, talk to us about upcycling. What is it exactly? And walk us through the process of one of the most recent or or maybe favorite products you upcycled?
Okay, great. Upcycling for me is basically reusing if it's a fabric or a garment that um, was once worn, and then you hand it over to another. And I think something very interesting about upscaling or upcycling, sorry, is the idea that you're being conscious without necessarily going too deep into your pockets. And for me, when I showcased my collection, which was almost about 80% of it was using fabric that is from the secondhand market, and giving it a new life. What I did in this collection is I went and got the actual fabrics. In most cases, these fabrics are small portions. They could range from a meter to about 3 meters. And if you're constructing a garment, if your garment requires like 5 meters and you only have a meter, it means that you have to get other fabrics to compensate the difference and create an outfit. So in this kind of situation, I bought fabrics that were from the secondhand market and paired them up with another piece and created a piece. And the difference in this is that as a designer, we normally we sketch the design and then make the outfit. But in this case, you are doing it almost in reverse. You have to get the fabrics, and then the fabrics almost dictate the kind of style that you're going to make. So it influences the construction as well.
As you well know, environmental groups argue that the global north must stop essentially dumping low-quality garments in Africa. As a designer working with upcycled material, what role do you think creatives like you can play in pushing for fairer, more responsible fashion systems?
That's quite a very interesting question, because that has been a topic not only in our fashion scenes as to how do we address the issue of secondhand clothing. If I was one saying we should get rid of the secondhand market or secondhand clothing, yet there is a large portion of people that actually survive on that kind of market. So it is a very debatable issue. Even for us, it's a very sensitive issue because we are also in competition with secondhand goods, because the clothes are quite affordable, easy access as compared, because labor is expensive in Africa. So it is a very sensitive matter as to how we can address this issue. Before, we used to get stuff from the UK or the US, but now even our secondhand market has, the Asian market, the Asian style has found its way in our spaces. So it's, other than it adjusting or growing smaller, I think it's getting bigger. As long as there's demand, that will always be an issue.
That's a Kenyan designer, John Kaveke. Thank you, John.
You're most welcome. Thank you.